important is it, do you think, for a leader of a law firm to have a strong social radar, a strong sense of what's going on in the world sort of outside the law firm?
I think leading any business, particularly a law firm now, having that social radar is absolutely critical, both in terms of the internal piece, in terms of attracting and retaining talent, but also importantly how we engage with our clients. I mean, I think it's on the agenda of every single one of our clients as to what they do around CSR, what their impact is in the community, and equally our people are equally concerned to understand that they've got opportunities to actually make an impact through what they do, and that also as an organisation we're inclusive, and these things matter. Now, for me personally, it's something I feel very passionate about. It's the right thing to do, and there's a moral imperative to do it. But I think what we've seen is a sort of coalescence now of that, and therefore the business imperative, the strategic imperative, is really easy to articulate, and it's absolutely vital, I think, for any business.
Having a clearly defined set of cultural values is one thing, but how do you ensure that that's actually practically embedded into the organisation's DNA day to day? And particularly, how do you manage that, maintain that at scale?
Maintaining our culture and values is something that we've kind of put at the top of our priorities, because it's the thing that can get challenged and eaten away at so quickly. You know, we've just become over 1,000 people in the UK across three sites, and there's no shortage for face time fundamentally. And so on a personal level, as part of our induction program, everyone goes through that. I actually then separately to that sit down with everyone who joins in groups of 6 or 8 to really reiterate what the firm's about, what we stand for, what the values are. And that has to be embedded in our remuneration system, our review system, so that actually culture and the values is something that's actually taken into account in people's performance reviews. And actually that's reinforced through each layer of management.
So I think it's fair to say that for some time firms or leaders of firms have talked about all the things that we're talking about, but maybe it's been a little bit more superficial historically. Do you think there's been something of a change now where actually these leaders are realising that this has to come from an authentic place? It's not enough just to talk the talk. They actually have to lead by example themselves and demonstrate that this really is at the heart of who they are as an organisation.
I think you're absolutely right. I wouldn't say that every firm, every organisation has done this, but if you want to be believable that you're serious about inclusion, diversity, CSR, you've actually got to commit and be real about it. So you've got to make time available for it. You've actually got to lead from the top, particularly around inclusiveness. We were very clear that this was actually the executive board that was going to drive this forward, supported by our HR, but actually it couldn't be a tick box exercise. We were going to make real changes with substantive impact around the business and have qualitative measures beyond just pure statistics as to whether people genuinely felt they were working in a more inclusive environment. And I think it's absolutely critical that leaders of business actually assume responsibility for it to drive that change, because otherwise, and you've also got to link it back to the strategy and make sure it's clear to people why you're doing it, that actually clients are going to benefit from it, our people are going to benefit from it. Otherwise, as you said, it will just become a sort of an exercise in sort of ticking boxes and just kowtowing to things, and actually it won't make a difference. And the businesses that succeed are the ones that take it seriously, and their people and their clients believe them.
What are your thoughts on quotas? Do you think they're necessary? Do you think they're a good thing, bad thing?
It's interesting. It's, as I said, we've got targets as opposed to quotas, and the main reason for having them was so we had a degree of objectivity and could measure progress. The quotas, to a certain extent, to my opinion, go slightly against the heart of what we're trying to achieve, because our inclusiveness strategy is about saying that every single person is different, and that every single person should have the same opportunities to achieve and succeed as the other person, irrespective of their background. So it's driving high performance and making sure everyone has the support. However, we know we're not representing certain groups as well as they should be, and therefore we've got to understand the problems behind that and what's stopping that. So, just as an example, we have, when I took over, I think it's something like just over. We're slightly more female newly qualified than male, and yet at partnership, when I took over, we had 19% female partners. We're now up to 24-25%. Now, targets aren't what's going to drive the change, but you've got to have something to measure your progress by. And I think it's not about quotas, but actually it goes back to the reason you want a variety of voices, whether it's based around gender or ethnicity or sexuality, excuse me, is actually because having those voices at the table actually brings something positive to the organisation. And allowing those people to be themselves in the organisation means they'll perform better and everyone succeeds as a result of it. So there's a bit of a semantics about the wording, because I think you do need, whether it's female voices or black voices, but it's not just because they're a woman, it's because they'll actually have a different take on it and they'll view a situation differently to a white male.
How close to technology do you think leaders need to be? Do you think it's enough that they simply surround themselves with great people and empower those people to do great things? Or do you think they actually need to have their finger on the technology pulse themselves and real insight into where technology is going?
I think you've got to embrace technology and understand it. I think it's not the solution to everything, but it's clearly changing the profession massively. And unless you understand what the technology can do, you're always going to be struggling. I think, every great leader should surround themselves with great people. I'm a big fan of that. And, our head of IT is going to be a much better person to talk to around technology. But I've got to understand not so much the technology per se, but actually what the problems we face as a business are. And then that's where the link comes, because if I don't know about technology, I won't be able to sort of bring the two together. And technology is an enabler to help us serve our people better, serve our clients better. So you've got to understand what technology can do, and therefore look at your business and see what are the challenges we are facing. How can we use technology as part of the solution to do that? And I think perhaps unfairly lawyers get sort of labelled Luddites, and I think we've embraced technology certainly as a firm because it's a sector we've been serving our clients in for a number of years. So we wouldn't be credible as lawyers in the first instance if we didn't really understand what was driving changes and what the new technologies are. But actually it goes beyond that to actually bring the two together. You've got to live and breathe it, and we use technology in every bit of our business now. So I think you can't sort of shy away from it, and you can't just say it's the IT team who've got to sort all that out, because it's the lawyers who will be having the challenges with clients or internally the processes to say, look, I'm having this problem, there must be a solution. I've seen this bit of technology do this. How can we do it? And I think every lawyer now has to assume that having an understanding of technology and using technology is just another skill set that you'll need going forward.
From a practical perspective then, how do you actually achieve that? How do you ensure that each month you're constantly gaining that information? Do you have different channels kind of internally or externally that you use to ensure that you are keeping your finger on the pulse?
So, I mean, we've got, with regards to technology and changes, we've got a number of different sort of sources into it. Not least our clients are a great source of that. Our office in Silicon Valley and San Francisco are actually great conduits for us seeing what's coming down the line in terms of technology developments. We have someone who's as a head of technology and change, I think, to sort of feed into our exec board on a monthly basis to keep us abreast of the changes that are going on. Obviously, I follow it because it's of interest and read on it, attending networking events and various things like that. And I think it's key to kind of immerse yourself in that to really understand what's going on. And you might go along and think, well, actually, that's got no relevance to me, but at least you can understand the way things are going and come away with something. So I think you've got to, it's just part of the job, frankly. And I think it's about almost being as much of a sponge as possible and soaking up as much information from as many different sources and then sort of working out where you go next.
So as arguably every market is now a technology market, do you think law firms would benefit maybe looking at less kind of sort of inwardly at other law firms and more kind of externally at other markets that are maybe more established from a technology perspective, whether that's for ideas around innovation, around HR, around creating products, around user experience? But do you think maybe firms should be looking more externally for a sense of where the world is going?
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think taking a step back more broadly, we're in the process of developing our 2025 strategy, and we went to an external strategy consultant who actually advises on products. Not the obvious place for a law firm to go, but we wanted someone who would challenge, probe, and say, well, just because it's always been done like that in a law firm, why can't you use what's been used in consumer-facing products or otherwise? And I think that goes to how we deliver our service, how we engage with our clients, our people. Could we do more? Because I think that the black letter law is a given now, but actually it's the bits that are around it. And if you go to any, general counsel in a corporate, they're going to be told, they've got to get more for less. They want added value, and the law is almost a given. It's what you can add around that. So if you can help clients with processes and other things, you're clearly going to be in a better position. And I think looking outside the profession is going to give you an advantage, because you're going to come up with new and novel ideas. And the amount of RFPs we receive where they ask you for innovative ideas on training or pricing or whatever it may be. And I think there's a bit of an element, where innovation for law firms has often been keeping up with the Joneses and doing what your nearest competitor's doing, but trying to do it a bit better or quicker. And there's an element that I guess is innovation, but to truly kind of challenge and disrupt, you've got to look at what's happened in every other business, and law's not immune from that.
Do you think the traditional partner structure is still fundamentally fit for purpose? Or to put it another way, do you think if an alien were to land on planet Earth today and be given the mission of creating a law firm from scratch through first principle thinking, do you think they would end up with an organisation that closely resembled the firms that we have today? Or do you think they'd end up with something entirely different?
I mean, I guess in a way you've got the examples at the moment, because you've got alternative providers, you've got the big four coming into law, you've got the co-op law, you've got the technology disruptors, and you've got traditional law firms, and then you've got a whole sort of range on that spectrum. And I think if you were an alien and you looked at it, you'd kind of go, there's probably room for all of them, because there's different needs and there's different clients and there's different bits of the market. But I think if you weren't high-bound by what had gone before, I think it would look very different from what a traditional law firm looks like. And I think this goes back to my point, is that we're a business that happens to provide legal services. So in that sense, everyone in this law firm is a lawyer. Some of them are qualified solicitors, but others are people working in the law industry, whether they're in finance, whether they're PAs or receptionists. They're working in a law business. And I think that's the sort of biggest single change I think you would make. And I think you'd see it as a law business, not a law firm. And the lawyer is the generic of everyone working there. And within that, what we consider lawyers today would be the qualified solicitors piece. Then there'd be people who have sort of the qualified legal bit, but also maybe the IT bit, or the law bit, and the sales and marketing, or the sales and marketing and finance. And you'll see a much more, it's sort of that collective intelligence theory of coming together of all the different perspectives without the clear demarcation lines that you have at the moment of lawyers and business services functions. And we always talk about being one firm, and when we get an instruction from a client that sort of lands on our door to the moment the bill's paid and the money's in our account, it requires every single person in our business to be involved in that through all the different functions. And we've got to work together much better in a less siloed way. So I think anything you could do to break that down as an alien, you'd go, well, why would you have all those different barriers? Clearly, you all work together for the same end result, which is fundamentally to deliver excellent client service.